We're so used to throwing out our Pokemon and mashing A to claim our victories these days. But what if instead of standard one-on-one battles, you're now required to build a team that fights in organized formations? I'm talking frontline, backline, synergy, and strategy. The whole shebang. Well, if that sounds cool to you, then we have found the perfect game for you. It's called Pokemon Overlord, a roguelike inspired by Unicorn Overlord and made by Jab Lao. You'll recruit Pokemon, build structured teams, and take on increasingly tough encounters where smart planning matters way more than just overleveling your starter and calling it a day. It's insanely addictive as well, so today I'll be showing you all their game modes have to offer. Overlord's menu gives us different options to pick from, each playing out slightly differently than the other. But let's start with a regular playthrough first. We embark on our journey as the legendary trainer Red by entering the World Championship tournament that features all the best trainers in the world, and we're going to be competing against them to become the #1 Overlorder. Our first interaction is with Professor Oak, who gives us a starting deck. We get the choice between green, that includes Ivysaur and Pidgeotto, red, which is Charmeleon and Machoke, and blue, which are Wartortle and Haunter. These decks represent all 6 types that are in the game, and they are then divided in 2 sections. The Grass, Water, Fire trio, who are all super or not very effective against each other, but also the second trio, Electric, Dark, and Normal, where the same thing happens. If you use these 2 sections against each other, you will always do neutral damage, even if your electric type move attacks a water type Pokemon. It might sound a little easy, but believe me, it balances out way better than having 18 types that all interact with each other differently. With that in mind, I decided to pick the Wartortle and Haunter duo. In my mind, they were working as a tank and glass cannon, which can always come in handy. I immediately started talking to everyone after this and struck up my first battle against a random girl. Before each fight, you get the option to set up your team however you like. You can place down a maximum of 3 Pokemon in either the front or the back row. Pokemon in the back tend to be safer because normally you need to take on the front row first before you can start attacking the back one, unless you have a specific move that lets you attack the back row or maybe every enemy on the field at once. Your Pokemon also all have levels that determine their 3 stats: HP, attack, and speed. On top of that, they also have attack and ability points, which determine how many times you can use either an attack or their passive ability. So let's talk about those real quick. Each Pokemon has 2 sets of attacks they can choose from. For example, before this battle, I had to determine if I wanted my Haunter to use Shadow Punch or Lick, and then Nightshade or Shadow Sneak as its second move. Each one of these moves has a cost to attack, but they also all have different properties. Like Shadow Punch costs 2 attack points to use and has 85 base power with no side effects, while Lick only had 40 base power, but in exchange it only costs 1 attack point and lowers the target's speed by 40 points as well. The moves tended to be very balanced, so what I usually did was have one that costs a lot and one that costs a little bit less with a side effect. Now let's get on to the abilities. You can nearly always choose from 2 different ones, and just like with moves, they cost ability points to trigger, only you can't choose when to use them. They would activate on their own terms, like my Haunter's Hypnosis. After he attacks, my target would lose 1 attacking point, so they will have less chances to make moves. But this can only be used once right now, since my Haunter only has 3 ability points and it costs 3 of them to use it. So let's see how this first fight against her 2 normal types, Jigglypuff and Skitty, plays out. I didn't change my lineup and thought my Haunter would immediately die here because normal is good against dark. Because we were so fast, I was able to get rid of Jigglypuff's 1 and only attack point with Hypnosis, rendering it useless. And because of my Wartortle's cover ability, it actually takes the hit that the teammate would normally take. And so he was able to shield my Haunter from Skitty's Fury Stripes. From there on out, I just use Lick, Bubble Beam, and Struggle, which activates if you don't have enough attack points to use your selected move. And that was luckily enough to win the fight. Now you might think, huh? You didn't knock out their Pokemon, but that's not what determines the winner in Overlord. The person who does the most damage throughout the battle is the winner at the end. You get experience after each battle depending on how much damage you did, and stuff like flawless victories where none of your Pokemon fainted, and full KOs where you knock out all the opponent's Pokemon give you extra XP. You also get a little bit of money after every fight that you can spend on a variety of things, and those are the basic game mechanics. There's more to it, but we'll get to that once it's necessary. So with our first win under my belt, I wanted more of that wonderful taste, and my next victim was youngster Joey with his Rattata and Zigzagoon. Due to Wartortle's cover, we were once again able to win here, and besides the prize money, this guy also gave me a new Pokemon. Larvitar. Why he didn't use it himself, I don't know, but I will absolutely take this. Right now, this Larvitar seems pretty useless, with a very weak set of attacks and only one ability that boosts its attack after it gets a KO, which it won't get very many of. But you may have noticed that this is a pseudo-legendary, which always tend to be some of the best Pokemon in the game. And that's no different in Overlord, so I'll be keeping it around for the long haul. Now we had a 3 Pokemon setup, perfect for my next opponent, Tierno, who was ready to bust out some of his dance moves. He had an Inkay, Frogadier, and Corphish. It was clear that my lineup skills still weren't top-notch. However, due to Wartortle's cover ability saving the day, we were still able to come out on top in this fight too. Yes, they might have been able to knock out Larvitar, but even fainted Pokemon still get experience at the end of the battle. With a little extra pocket change, I checked out the rest of this place and stumbled upon the card market. Here you can buy new Pokemon with the money you earn. The shop updates after a certain amount of battles, so I made sure to check up regularly. For now though, I would only buy a Gligar, which would become Larvitar's replacement. He was a very balanced mon with 2 cool things: the move Fury Cutter that would increase in power each time it was used, and also the ability U-Turn, which let him move to the back row after attacking so that he would be kept safe. And he was perfect to take on our next fight against Hilda. Her lineup was Rufflet in the back row with Pignite and Pansage up front. We saw U-Turn in action, but there were also a couple of other things that stood out in this fight. Like her Pansage Vine Whip, which allowed it to pull Gligar back to the front row. Wartortle's cover ability actually activated at the wrong time, which let him get hit with a super effective attack, while her Pignite had an ability that raised its attack at the start of the battle. In the end though, we were still able to take down 2 of our 3 team members, only leaving Rufflet standing, so we get a near flawless victory. We didn't waste any time and immediately challenged our next opponent, May, another protagonist who clearly didn't get the memo that I'm trying to speedrun this tournament. She rolls up with Tailo, Combuskin, and Shroomish, and honestly, we had a real shot. Even though her Combuskin hit us with a Detect and made my first attack fail, Wartortle's cover basically turned the whole front line into a nope zone, as Tailo and Combuskin kept slamming into the turtle wall until Wartortle's ability points finally ran out. After that, they were able to KO my Haunter, but we clapped back by killing Combuskin and Shroomish straight after, which net me another victory. Now that we were this confident, it was right into the next fight with Brock. He had his 2 fire types, Geodude and Onix, but his Geodude just kept on hiding behind Onyx's cover, like a little sibling standing behind their older brother saying, "Hold me back." Wartortle didn't care though and just steamrolled both of them. And as my second reward, Brock handed me another Gligar. I should not have spent my money that quickly, but this win did let us move on to the quarterfinals. When the round changes, new trainers tend to show up and their teams naturally become stronger too. Definitely makes sense, otherwise you'd just be able to become super overpowered. Our first opponent in this round was actually Bugsy. He had a team of Metapod, a Pokemon that can't deal any damage and is literally just there to be a damage sponge, but also Pinsir and Scyther, 2 very strong, hard-hitting Pokemon. They might have been able to take down my Wartortle, but with Gligar's Fury Cutters and Haunter's Licks, we took those 2 down and won the fight anyway. We went on exploration straight after and found a bunch of rooms on the upper floor, which we sadly enough couldn't enter or check. Maybe this is where the participants sleep, or it's where they do all kinds of horrible experiments. I guess we'll never know. Anyway, let's check out the vitamin shop instead. Here you can buy stuff to buff up your team. I'm talking rare candies to increase their level, AP ups to give them more attack points, PP ups to give them more ability points, and also vitamins that can boost their HP, attack, and speed by 5 points each. I didn't want to spend my money on this just yet because maybe there's going to be a cooler Pokemon in the shop that I want to get. Luckily, that isn't the only thing this game has to offer. There are also special events, like this one where Flannery here wanted to trade her Camerupt for my Wartortle. I did not need this oversized camel and knew Blastoise probably had more potential in the long run, so I politely declined her offer. Instead, I'd give my team some much needed variety by buying my first ever electric type from the shop, Bisharp, a slow, bulky, hard hitter that was also my first ever team member that could attack with 2 kinds of moves, electric and dark. He also had the ability Iron Barbs that will damage the opponent if he ended up being attacked. He also had some very strong moves with the 110 base power Iron Head, plus the insane Guillotine, but that cost all of his attack points to use, so for now I didn't really touch it. I replaced Haunter for the fight against N with him, and this guy had some really cool Pokemon. Zora with its illusion ability that changes into a different Pokemon at the start of the fight, adapting its typing, which in this instance turned out to be Nidorina. I went in aggressively, aiming Gligar at his Servine, but I didn't realize his Light Bard had Prank. an ability that pulls in a move and fully negates it. So my attack gets yoinked, and because of U-turn, Gligar swaps places with Wartortle, meaning Wartortle wonks into the front row and immediately eats 3 hits in a row, getting dropped instantly. My own strategy had officially betrayed me. You just love to see it. Bisharp held firm though. He tanked 3 hits the next turn, and between Iron Barb's chip damage, Iron Head, Night Slash, and Gligar's boosted Fury Cutters, we just barely scrape out the win, giving my Gligar enough experience to level up and evolve into Gliscor. That not only gave him a massive stat boost, but also better moves, more attack points, and ability points. He also gained the ability to attack with Grass-type moves, X-Scissor, and Poison Jab. And the second one brings me to the only status condition in the game: burn. It's beautifully simple. If a move says 20% burn, that Pokemon loses exactly 20% of its max HP at the end of the turn, which can be incredible for melting down those spongy tanks that refuse to die. On top of that, we switched his ability to Swords Dance, which boosted attack by 25 points at the start of every turn. In other words, this Scorpion Bat is cooking. He was so good in fact that we hit our very first perfect 400% XP battle against Roxy and her squad. She had a bulky Garbodor soaking hits while Scolipede pulled off a sneaky strategy. Thanks to Baton Pass, Scolipede gave Garbodor an early turn despite its terrible speed. That let the Trash Mountain fire off Sludge Bomb, which hits the entire team and burns everyone too. It also had Stench, which drains 1 ability point every time you attack it, so basically it was disgusting. Luckily, Gliscor was super effective against them both, and due to my smart positioning, they weren't able to get any of my members down, and we wiped her entire team. So we get the maximum reward of 400 experience, which made my dopamine levels hit new heights. Right after that fight, I brought Haunter back into the lineup specifically to bully Jasmine's Magnemite and Steelix. And it worked. We got another flawless win. Mr. Watson tried to put up a fight too, but the core was just too strong. And that's when Haunter hit level 6 and evolved into Gengar. Just look at those stats. Super high speed, solid attack, certified glass cannon behavior. Move-wise, he picked up Nightshade and Shadow Ball, so while it wasn't a massive upgrade in that variety, it was a big upgrade in raw output. But I benched him for the fight against Giovanni because his team was built to punish aggression. He had Nidorino with Poison Point, which burns you when you hit it, Persian with Payday, which gives an ally an extra turn, and then Rhydon, who hits like a truck and boosts his defense with Solid Rock when struck by a super effective attack. It might look scary on paper, but in practice, we tore through it. The only thing left standing at the end was Persian, and that win gave Wartortle enough experience to evolve into Blastoise. Giovanni also handed over Galvantula, but since we already had solid electric coverage, that one went straight to the sell for profit pile. And that's how we got into the semi-finals. If we can win a few more fights, we might actually take the entire tournament on our first run. You know, no pressure. Time to lock in. And the first thing I did was drop some cash on an AP up for Gliscor so he could squeeze in 1 more attack per fight. Then we got access to one of the coolest features in the game, NPC event battles. We walk in on Brawly and Roxanne talking, and by talking I mean Brawly is very obviously trying to impress her while she's just focused on the tournament. So she's like,
"Sir, please, I'm studying, leave me alone."
But Brawly basically goes,
"Oh yeah, if you're so smart, then coach me against Red."
So they end up combining their teams and fight me together. Team up mechanic activated. And in this fight, I accidentally turned on auto mode for the first time. It basically just lets you breeze through fights without input, but after testing it a bit, it doesn't really seem to make the best decisions. I mean, just like McDonald's Wi-Fi, it's fine, but it's just better to use your brain. Their lineup was pretty clean, with Nosepass as a frontline tank, Hariyama running Belly Drum to cut down its own HP to buff its own attack, and Armaldo shielding Hariyama with its cover ability. It's a decent synergy, but not enough to break my core, with Gengar, Gliscor, and Blastoise cleaning them up. Roxanne seemed weirdly happy despite losing, probably because Brawly fumbled it again, and they ended up handing me an attack up. Yeah, I'll be attending their wedding next Friday, by the way. And immediately after, we trigger another team-up event, but this one is a little bit more unsettling, because Birch is admiring Elisa a little too intensely. He claims he's his lightning muse for painting inspiration, but from my knowledge, no one calls someone their wonderful thunderbolt platonically. Elisa understandably thinks he's a creep, but still decides the best solution is to team up with him and battle me. Their combo of Crustle, Zipstrika, and and Galvantula isn't scary at all, because Blastoise had just picked up Hydro Pump and Waterfall, and let me tell you, water beats Bug and Electric Enthusiasm real fast. Once they were destroyed, we held Burge back and let Elisa escape freely. But as I look backwards, I notice a very scary man, Lysandre. And he's playing card tournaments? How has he not been incarcerated? I mean, he literally tried to blow up the entire world, and his team nearly looked as dangerous as the ultimate weapon. Norvern with Tailwind was boosting his entire team's speed. Mian Xiao's Fake Out was able to skip my Blastoise's first turn, and then Pyroar started to boost its own attack and blowing my front row to the back with its Mighty Roar ability. Boombursts were able to hit my entire team, and while everything here looked chaotic and like I was on the back foot, our core was able to hold strong and managed to handle the world-ending villain. Turns out he wasn't the real villain though. That was this man that a lot of you probably forgot about. Wes from Pokemon Colosseum. He quite literally cheats because his Plusle has electromagnetism, an ability which automatically spawns in a Minun. So he starts his battle with 4 Pokemon. On top of that, he has Umbreon as his wall, Espeon as his glass cannon, and then Minun can protect spam to negate my attacks. By the time I had broken through Umbreon, Minun was already negating my attacks and Espeon was deleting Gliscor and Bisharp like it had a personal vendetta. That left me with just Blastoise and he still had 3 healthy Pokemon. That was my first loss, and it hurt. But here's the cool part. You're not immediately out. There's a health bar at the top left representing your tournament life, and that just dropped down a bit. I was absolutely not planning on letting myself get knocked out of this tournament, definitely not by a Candace Flannery team-up. You see, Flannery's whole thing here is that she struggles with being herself. She cares way too much about what people think, so she overcompensates by acting super hot-headed. Candace, meanwhile, just wants her to loosen up and embrace a little chaos, so naturally we'll settle this emotional growth arc with a tactical card battle. They have a Grass, Fire, Water core synergy, and that didn't work too well against Gengar, Gliscor, and Blastoise. We literally managed to perfect kill them, but at least Flannery feels way cooler without worrying about being cool now and gives us a free speed up that I end up giving to Blastoise because, you know, it's kinda slow as balls. Our rematch against N also didn't cause any problems, but because of this W, we got another free Abomasnow card. We can not only sell that for free money, but we also go into the Grand Finals too, baby! For this battle, the champion of Kalos, Diantha, came in, and she would be our very last opponent, while all of the other participants were allowed to spectate, so there was a lot of pressure on me here. Luckily, the game gives you time to prepare for the battle by selling off any unnecessary cards and letting you buy last-ditch Pokemon and stat boosting items. I ended up selling everyone except for Gliscor, Blastoise, and Tyranitar. They made for a very good core, and just look at Tyranitar's stats. Nearly maxed out attack, good bulk, and the maximum amount of attack points, making him an incredible team member. The maximum level of a Pokemon is also 9, which he had reached 2, plus as his 2 moves, I used Crunch and Earthquake so he could hit all the opposing Pokemon at once. With all of my preparation done, I stepped into the Master Ball Arena to face off against my final challenge, Diantha. Her team consisted of an Aurorus, Goodra, and maxed out Gardevoir. But the first 2 Pokemon were only level 6 and 7 though, which very much surprised me. But I was ready to go. I poison jabbed her Aurorus with Gliscor to get rid of half of its HP and give it a burn too. Blastoise would then protect him from Goodra's Aqua Tail, hit it with a Waterfall, and protect once again, as Gardevoir's Black Hole attack would normally hit all the enemies on the field. Tyranitar would chip everyone down a bit with Earthquake, and even though Aurorus hit a super effective Avalanche, the burn damage could finish it off after that. Then I would place a burn on Goodra with Gliscor's Poison Jab again before getting taken out by an Aqua Tail, and while that burn might not have been enough to clean up, Hydro Pump from Blastoise was. Her Gardevoir's Future Sight Boost Black Hole combo then killed my Blastoise but also got rid of all of her attack points, which let Tyranitar spam 3 more crunches in a row to claim victory, making me the new champion of Pokemon Overlord. And while this might have been incredibly fun, this is not the end of our journey here. As a reward, we get some battle points, which you can then spend in 2 different ways. The first one is by buying characters, allowing you to play through the tournament as them with their teams. The first person I bought was Lysandre. Not intentionally, I just didn't know what his silhouette would have turned out as. I guess now we're forced to try and destroy the world ourselves. His starting team consisted of a Litleo and a Mienfoo, two Pokemon we've already faced before, last time we fought him. I immediately noticed that they weren't all that strong, with us losing our very first battle against Roxanne's Nosepass and Anorith. Kids, it clearly doesn't pay to be evil. But we would gain traction quickly, with Litleo evolving very early at level 3 after beating up the last with our Jigglypuff and Skitty from before. And while that was a great way to get through the early game, yes, even Wallace devastating triple loved this combo, it did feel like these started to fall off hard in the end game. We did have a couple of fun events that happened throughout though, like Jasmine stealing my money like the ninja she is, just so we could track her down and get it back double. Doubling money is real! RuneScape was wrong, my childhood trauma can finally rest. Anyway, we also had the opportunity to trade our Pokemon away for Claire's Dragonite, which in hindsight would probably be something I should have done, but in return we did end up buying one of the most broken Pokemon in the game, Milotic. Not only could it deal very decent amounts of damage to the whole enemy team with Surf, it also had incredible sustainability. With its attack Draining Kiss, it was able to heal itself, and it also had Recover as an ability which let it heal 50% of its max HP when being brought below half, making it a nearly unkillable obstacle. If we didn't have her, we absolutely would not have made it to the grand finals against Red. He had an insane team though. Charizard, Ashcat Pikachu, and Snorlax. Pyroar and Mienshao actually managed to take out Charizard and Pikachu, but they went down in the process, so it turned into the most dramatic possible ending. Two big tanks in Milotic and Snorlax up against each other. Even though we had our healing, in the end Snorlax had way more attacking potential. Because he had more HP remaining, we ended up losing. And that is the real reason Lysandre came back as L in Legend ZA. Man took one L and said, fine, I'll reboot in a different timeline. And since he left this realm, I couldn't use him again, but I really wanted to complete one of these character leash challenges properly. So I went back into the shop and bought Watson, the electric type gym leader. Why? One word. Plusle. We've already fought this thing before. It gives me the potential of having 4 Pokemon on the field at once. But because we were playing as Watson, I decided to add a twist. I was only allowed to use electric types. For our starting lineup, I chose Thundershock and Spark on Plusle, and Electrike came with Thunderfang and Bite, plus the ability Thunder Wave, which can lower my target speed by 30 points. Our first opponent was the classic Lass with Skitty and Jigglypuff. Our electric types are good against normals, so we should be fine here. When Minun hits the field, it has 3 things: Nuzzle, Protect, and Helping Hand. Nuzzle has 55 base power and drops the opponent's speed. Protect can negate any attack, and Helping Hand boosts the attack of an ally just before they go in for the attack, making the first fight go flawless. And it usually takes me a while to get my first perfect battle, so I immediately knew that we were cooking with this run. Because of our type advantage, we also easily destroy Whitney and her Miltank. Then I hit the shop and saw Raikou, one of the best electric legendaries in the game, but I couldn't afford it just yet, but it instantly became a goal to get it. From here on out, we kept on winning. A Pikachu Kid with Pancham and Barbaracle, gone. Blaine's Growlithe, Ponyta, and Magmar almost beat us, but since Minun isn't in our starting lineup, it actually doesn't count as me taking any damage when he dies or takes damage. And because of that, we were able to just get this win by 4%. Silver and his Sneasel and Crocodile also immediately got dominated, but then came Claire. She pulled up with Dragonair and Seadra. Not only were they nearly double my level, but also started throwing out Hydro Pumps and Dragon Rages like someone just whistleblowed on her grandpa. But our speed control was broken. Between Thunder Wave, Nuzzle, and Helping Hand boosts combined with focus targeting, we still managed to take her down. Leveling up Electrike to 4, which evolved him into Manectric, and this is where things went from just a solid run to this might actually be illegal because he unlocked the ability Charge. This gives him plus 14 attack for every adjacent electric ally. Now normally you can only have 2 of those, so that caps at plus 28. But remember, Plusle spawns Minun. Now we can surround him with 3 allies, so 14 extra attack. And if that wasn't enough, he also gained Fire Fang and Flamethrower for extra coverage and the ability to burn opponents too. Our team was looking juicy. Even without fully optimizing charge positioning, we scraped out a win against Bill and his Evolution squad. And that victory gave us enough money for the dream, Raikou. I bought him immediately, and guess what? He also gets charge, but naturally with way better stats than Manectric. Combine that with his discharge attack, which hits an entire row at once, and at this point we're basically holding a portable power plant. Our opponents better start installing surge protectors, or at least that's what I thought, because Raikou died in his very first fight. Barry targeted him with everything. Krogunk redirecting my move with Prank, cancelling my damage, and then the entire team dogpiled Raikou like he owed them money. Look, he was level 1. We don't judge. Plus Manon and Manectric avenge him and still won the fight, but that was definitely a wake-up call. My formation still wasn't optimal because my bird brain hadn't realized I needed to surround Raikou for maximum charge value. Once I figured that out though, oh boy. Before that, we still beat Flint flawlessly, who for once was actually using fire types unlike his team in Sinnoh. But the real power spike came against Serena, where I finally placed Raikou in the center surrounded by all of my electric allies. Charge ended up proccing, Helping Hand boosted him even more, and Discharge was fired off. Sylveon, Pinsir, and Brixen all gone, reduced to ashes. Then Blue and Silver teamed up after we overheard them trash-talking each other like two rivals in a YouTube comment section. Their combined team consisted of Wartortle, Raticate, and Croconaw. First, we shredded his Raticate with Thunderfang. Then one discharge hit the back row and wiped both water types in a single turn. And that's how we humbled two of the cockiest characters in Pokemon history with just a single fight. And as our reward, we got an attack up, which obviously went straight into Raikou. After this, I realized that I didn't need two charge users, so I went shopping, and there it was, my next team member, Fluffy, a perfect replacement for Manectric. It brought Discharge and Shockwave, which could damage rows, and Illuminate as its ability, so we can boost our entire team's speed. We tested this new lineup against Misty, who had Seeking, Starmie, and Golduck, and even though she was able to KO Raikou at one point, our speed boost and row damage were just too much. Discharge plus Helping Hand scaling overwhelmed her sustain, and with that win, semifinals were secured. Here's when I ran into the coolest Easter egg in the entire game. The only person who could stop my overpowered Electric Empire so far wasn't even a Pokemon character. They had to call in Yugi Moto himself, the king of games. And listen, when a man believes in the heart of the cards, you already know you're in trouble. He rolled up with Dark Magician Girl, and Summon Skull, and I did not have any trap cards to stop them. Here's why I lost. Dark Magician had Barrier, which straight up blocked my first attack. Then Dark Magician's Girl ability boosted him up, which let him one-shot Fluffy with a single Dark Magic attack. Then Dark Magician Girl deletes Plusle with the same move, and because of type interactions, my damage suddenly wasn't very effective since they were dark. Within a couple of turns, we were only able to take down his Summoned Skull while we got sent to the Shadow Realm. Honestly though, this made me realize how insanely cool this game would be with Yu-Gi-Oh characters too. But we can only keep on praying for something like that to happen. Despite the loss, Fluffy did level up and evolved into Ampharos, which gave it a huge stat boost. Plus it gained Power Gem as a fire type move, so we can have some extra coverage again. I also destroyed the same Brawly Roxanne event we saw before, and then I did something questionable. I challenged Sydney, who we're normally weak against. If he had a full Dark-type team, this fight might have turned out in his favor, but our double discharge pressure was just disgusting, with Shiftry, Absol, and Crawdaunt all getting deleted. It's as they say, sometimes an overwhelming offense really is the best defense. Then Lysandre stabbed back into the realm, and this time he actually played it very smart. Mian Xiao flinched Raikou so he couldn't attack. Pyroar then used Noble Roar to push Minun and Ampharos to the back row. Raikou got focused down before firing off a single discharge, and once your main damage engine drops, it obviously starts to snowball. And that's how we ended up losing our second fight of the run. I did not expect to get humbled twice here, so naturally we took our frustration out on Whitney and Lenora, who were both weak against me. 2 flawless wins, confidence restored, and that pushed us into the grand finals. Our opponent, Palmer, the Sinnoh Battle Frontier Master, and a professional absentee father. As my preparation, I went all in. 3 rare candies to level my entire team up to the max. Then 3 attack ups on Raikou, which was now sitting at 83 attack in total. We were not playing around. But Palmer wasn't either. He had a level 7 Milotic, level 9 Rhyperior, and level 7 Dragonite. And that last one opened up with agility to boost its own speed. Luckily, we answer with a team-wide speed boost of Ampharos of our own. Raikou moves first, and Milotic tries to attract to lower my damage, but Helping Hand cancels that out, as we deal 115 damage across the entire row. Dragonite attempts Hurricane to swing momentum, but that doesn't matter. One more Thundershock plus Discharge combo, and his full team is wiped out. And just like that, we are champion with Watson's squad. Electric supremacy has been achieved. Now remember how there was a second way to spend your battle points, and that's with new starter decks you can buy, not only for the regular championships, but also for the Battle Frontier. This mode is kind of brutal. You've got 30 consecutive fights, no exploration, just chops and random battles. And just like before, if you lose all of your HP, it's over. So of course I had to try it too. My first attempt saw me making it to the very final fight with a team of Jirachi, Milotic, and Tyrantrum. But you probably already deduced that I lost this, otherwise I would show you how I got here. Yep, I totally forgot to place Jirachi down on the field. And that's why I lost to a combo of Scizor, Tyranitar, and Kingdra. Self-sabotage is a real problem, folks. I tried again with the Charmeleon Machoke deck, but once again kept falling short, no close runs, no trophies earned. So finally, I bought a new deck featuring Doublade and Skiddo. I immediately noticed that it had way better synergy, and during that run, I also got blessed by Zygarde's complete form. Legendaries are broken. It had 140 HP, the biggest tank in the game, making it nearly unkillable. But listen carefully when I say nearly. I managed to take Zygarde, Aegislash, and Rhyperior all the way to the final 30th fight. And that's where the game said speed check. I was up against Dusknoir, Garchomp, and Magnezone. And here's how it all fell apart. First, Dusknoir blocked my opening attack to shield Garchomp. Then Magnezone pulled Aegislash out of the back row with its Magnet Pull ability to expose him. And before I could even stabilize, I would get hit with Discharge and Bulldoze, which just slowly chipped down my entire team. The issue here wasn't my damage output or how long I could survive, it was clearly speed. We were too slow, too reactive, too unprotected. And that's how the Zygarde run unfortunately got ended. But I still wasn't quitting. I dumped the rest of my battle points into the Rivals deck, which starts out with a Magmar and Electabuzz. And let me tell you, these two are great in the early game. Magmar brings Smokescreen to lower enemy speed, Lava Plume to burn an entire row, and Fire Blast with 130 base power that spreads to adjacent enemies to also damage them for 40 power. Electabuzz comes with Charge, Thunder Wave, Shockwave, and Spark. We've already seen how busted Charge plus Speed Control can be, so I'll be rocking Thunder Wave on him for this run. Our first opponent was a Vespiquen with the unique ability Hive. This summons 3 Combees that she can command to use healing, attack, or defend order, and they will literally sacrifice themselves for her. Yes, this might sound scary, but with Lava Plume and Spark, we were still able to just blast through them. After that fight, I opened the shop and saw something that made me pause. A shiny Kingdra. Shinies in this game are incredibly rare, have boosted stats, and a different typing than their regular forms. They are powerful and beautiful. Also way too expensive. So I cried internally for not being able to get it and just moved on. Instead, I bought Metang with the money I had already earned. And as I've said before, pseudo legendaries are always worth it in the end. Metang already had Meteor Mash, which had 120 base power, and Bullet Punch as its ability, which deals 40 base power damage when he gets attacked. This kind of counter pressure was exactly what we needed. With this trio, we were rolling. Perfect battles left and right, even beat the rival duo matchup clean. For a while we felt kind of unstoppable, but then we hit wave 11. That's where we faced a lineup of Xatu, Azumarill, and Blossom. Xatu's ability Premonition allowed Azumarill to dodge my opening attack. Then Azumarill's huge power kicked in, which made Wave Crash hit like a truck. Xatu followed up with Ominous Wind, and that basically just dismantled my team from there. Luckily, we still had enough overall HP to continue the run, but the flawless streak was officially over. Right after that, we barely scraped past the Flygon, Relicanth, and Fortress team, and I started to notice that the fights really weren't as clean anymore. We were winning, but not dominating. I could feel when a Battle Frontier run starts slipping. Opponents scale up harder, damage numbers creep up, and margins just get thinner. By wave 15, the Espeon, Fortress, and Pupitar core carved out another chunk of my HP bar, and at that point, I could feel the run slipping. But then I realized something. We were one level away from a massive power spike, so after beating up the Hoenn trio, Combusken, Grovyle, and Marshtomp, all my Pokemon hit level 6. Magmar evolved into Magmortar, Electabuzz into Electivire, big stats, bigger presence. They didn't get insane new tools, but the raw stat jump was noticeable. But I wasn't satisfied yet, so I bought 2 rare candies and force-fed them to Metang. Boom. Early Metagross. It was incredible. That's a Pokemon I'm proud to call mine. With these 3, we started steamrolling again. Flawless win after flawless win, clean executions, momentum was now fully restored. We even beat a Shedinja with Wonder Guard, which could have been terrifying, but you know, we got some super effective moves. It really didn't do much. And on wave 29, we saw 6 Raticates. It looked like we were at a numbers disadvantage here, but it really wasn't. All we needed were discharges and lava plumes to turn this into a rodent barbecue. And so we were on to the final fight on wave 30, where our opponent was a Raichu, Dragonite, and Nidoking combo. They were all at max level, so we matched them by buying some rare candies, and then dumped our remaining funds into max attack points for Metagross and extra HP for survivability. No holding back, let's start this final showdown. Raichu opens up with Agility to boost its speed and land a decent hit on Metagross, but Bullet Punch triggers on contact, shaving off about a third of Raichu's HP in return. Electivire fires off Discharge, hitting Dragonite and Nidoking. Multiscale activates to boost Dragonite's defense, and Nidoking also burns us with its Poison Point ability. From here on out, Metagross follows up with Meteor Mash and deletes Nidoking before it can even move. Magmortar fires off a Fire Blast into Dragonite to do some solid damage, but not enough to finish it off. It then counters with a Hyper Beam to KO Metagross, but of course, one last Bullet Punch goes off as one last hooray. Raichu comes in, lands a Thunderbolt on Electivire, and then we just close it out with a Discharge to KO Dragonite and one more Lava Plume plus Struggle combo to end the fight. Not flawlessly, not pretty, absolutely not perfect, but a win is a win. We are not only the World Champion, Watson Champion, but also the Battle Frontier Champion. And that's basically everything Pokemon Overlord has to offer right now. I'm sure there will be updates that provide extra content, maybe even new modes in the future, but with what's here today, I'm very glad to say that this is yet another very fun game. I had never really played a game that's similar to this, so it was very refreshing and addicting to play. So if you're looking for a new spin on the Pokemon series yourself that isn't too hard to get into, I'd highly recommend giving Pokemon Overlord a shot. But with all that out of the way, I would also love to thank our amazing channel members for supporting the channel. Y'all are amazing and help us out a lot behind the scenes. So if you'd want to give us a hand too while being featured in videos at the end or by being named after Pokemon, consider joining up as well. It's always greatly appreciated. Now as always people, I've been Zwiggo and I'll see you all in the next one.